The pasuk says that Vayom Moshe Aaron Krav al Mizbeach, Perek Tes pasuk Zayin. So Rashi comments, Shehoya Aaron Boish B'yorei. Aaron was ashamed and he was afraid. Amalei Moshe Loma Ato Boish L'kach Nivcharta. Why are you ashamed? This is what you were chosen for. There's something of a diak in Rashi. Rashi begins that Aaron was Yorei, was Boish and Yorei. So that's two things. He was Boish, he was ashamed, and he was Yorei, he was afraid. Moshe Rabbeinu, though, in his response, he doesn't say Loma Ato Boish V'yorei. Moshe Rabbeinu only addresses the Boish, Loma Ato Boish. So lest you say that this is a mere pedantic diuk, it's all the same thing, Boish, Yorei, what's the difference? So it's not true, because in the Teres Kohanim, which is the source for this Rashi, it's actually machlekes. Was Aaron Boish or was he Yorei? There's one opinion in the Medrash that Aaron was Boish, he was ashamed. The Medrash gives a mashal to a king who married a commoner. So she's Boish. She's not used to, she feels unworthy to be moving in such circles. She has a natural diffidence. And then there's another opinion in Medrash that Aaron was Yorei, that he was afraid. Why was he afraid? Because of the Chet Egel. He felt that because of the Chet Egel, how can he do the Avodah? And the Medrash adds, the Teres Kohanim adds, that he saw the Mizbeach had horns. The horns of the Mizbeach looked to him like the horns of the Egel. And Moshe Rabbeinu had to say to him, Al tira mimasha tayori, don't be afraid, this fear that you have, don't be afraid of the thing that you're afraid of. So in Medrash, talking two opinions, Yorei and Boish. So Rashi combines the two opinions. Okay, Rashi could do that. He takes the two opinions in the Medrash, that Aaron was Boish and that he was Yorei, and he combines them, that Aaron was Boish and Yorei. But that you see clearly in the Teres Kohanim, that Boish is not Yorei and Yorei is not Boish. So now when Rashi gives Moshe Rabbeinu's response, Moshe Rabbeinu ought to be responding to both things, Lama ta Boish and Lama ta Yorei. So the Moshe Rabbeinu's response in Rashi is Lama ta Boish alone. The fact is, we don't find anywhere that the horns of Mizbeach had anything to do with the Chet Egel. The Ramban picks up on it, and the Ramban says that the horns of Mizbeach had nothing to do with the Chet Egel. But because Aaron was so preoccupied with the Chet Egel, it hovered over him, all was like a dark cloud. So to Aaron, everything looked like the Chet Egel. So the Mizbeach also, with the horns, nothing to do with the Chet Egel, but to Aaron it looked like the Chet Egel. So it was founded in a real fear, in a real Yiras Chet, but it wasn't entirely rational. And as is often the case with an irrational fear, the irrational fear is fed by a feeling of unworthiness. When a person feels unworthy, unfitted for the job at hand, then every obstacle appears to him like an insurmountable mountain. The Boish feeds the Yorei. I want to suggest perhaps that's what Rashi over here is saying. Aaron was Boish and he was Yorei. First of all, he was Boish. The Boish had to do with the fact that Aaron's a boss of Adam, and he's going now to do the Avodah, the Avodah in front of the Lufnei Hashem. Anybody would be Boish. That's like the mashal in the Medrash of the king who married a commoner, and she feels Boish, feels unworthy. Until she gets used to the idea that she's really the queen, she feels unworthy. That was one thing. But in addition, Aaron was Yorei. But the Yira, although it was founded in the Chet Egel, but the Yira made the Yira was fed by the Busha. Because Aaron was so Boish, so the Yira also seemed to him, the things that he was afraid of seemed to him to be much more formidable than they really were. The Kranos of Mizbeach, he was afraid of the horns of Mizbeach. The horns of the Mizbeach, there was nothing to be afraid of. They weren't so scary. But the Aaron, they were scary. He was Yorei. But he was Yorei to a degree because he was Boish. So Moshe Rabbeinu said to him, Lama ta Boish, ki l'kach nucharta. But if the Rebbeinu Shalom shows you to do this work, then it must be that you're the person who's most fitted for this work. And once Aaron was able to internalize that, then the Yiras also were able to then assume their proper perspective. That's often the case, that we have a job to do, we have a challenge. Each one of us in our lives, we have challenges, and there are obstacles. Very often the obstacles loom larger to us. They seem more insurmountable than they really are, because the fear of the obstacles is fed by our feeling of busha, by our feeling of not being worthy to the job that we have to do. If we're involved with Avodas HaKodesh, Avodas HaKodesh, miyalal Hashem, we feel that we're not worthy to do this job. And that makes everything seem more challenging. But every Jew really has this. Every Jew, wherever they are in life, there's a purpose, there's a reason why they're there. The more one feels that lekach nivcharta, that wherever the Rebbeinu Shalom put us in life, it must be that that's where we're supposed to do. And whatever challenges there are, we are fitted to those challenges. If we overcome the busha, then all of the various years that seem so challenging, that seem so difficult, all of those years will also shrink into a much more manageable proportion.